everybody. Hello, people. We have a new guest, and I hope you watched some of his pictures and videos. His name is Victor. Where are you from, Victor?
Hi, I'm from Denmark, 25 years old, studying philosophy, just finished or nearly finished. So yeah, how are you doing, Philip? Nice to speak with you.
Yeah. Uh, nice to meet you also. But people maybe some people don't know you. You've been chatting
Yeah,
with Martin and who else? So they can watch your videos.
Andreas Exertus.
Yes, okay.
You
Twice or
talk with him too.
because it's gonna be working very fine. Okay. So you
Wow.
wanted to present something, I think.
Yeah. Let's show some juice.
Was
Okay.
quite a long, quite a long introduction, but
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's let me see. How is it open?
I
So
have to.
now you see what I see, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, okay, I created this folder for you, but yeah, okay, there's a lot of good stuff in here. This isn't, okay, maybe the quality's not that good. Let's look at the giants. I think you've seen this one before. You're seeing this, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I always think these giants are interesting because they look kind of, I don't know, they look Viking to me right now. Isn't like a mixture of Persian, Viking, Tartarian. It's weird, right?
The people were worshiping Welles. Welles is the god of. He represents sometimes with those horns because he looks like he has a bull head, and even Bible says don't
Hmm.
pay the golden bull or something like this. So
Yeah. That's from the age of Taurus, where the Phoenicians were very powerful in their city of Byblos, and Byblos is basically Jerusalem today, I think, um, and that's also where the Bible were created by the Phoenicians in Byblos, or Byblos, Byblos. Also, I think this one is this symbol you see here. I think that is the Star of Remphan, or the David Star, so
yeah,
called.
it's a star of Welles. We call it the star of Welles
Oh, that's
because
interesting.
it
Well,
is a star of Welles. It's Wales star.
oh yeah, and I think astrologically and in alchemy, this symbol has to do with the change, a transition of the ages, where you go from, for example, water, no, well, fire to water, where we went from the age of um, Aries, fire, cardinal fire, into Pisces, mutable water, and that would be these two triangles merging together by their alchemical symbols. So I think that symbol is like a transition between two elements, two astrological signs. But that's just my theory. Or I think there are others that have expressed
We
similar
have
views.
also some type of calendar, and if you look at this calendar, everything makes sense because if we think about those ages, like age of Aquarius, age of whatever, right?
Yeah,
It's what period is that?
Age of Aquarius.
Yeah, how many
Well,
years?
how many years? For well, it's coming. That's we're moving into the age right now.
No, how long is the period of age as you know?
2,000 years.
2,000 years, right?
Yeah.
So, but this doesn't make sense because we don't have any evidence from that far. All the evidence we have right now is the medieval age. So it doesn't kind of fit because when you look at the Slavic calendar, it fits very fine because all those periods are coming each 16 years.
Mm. Yeah, but it might be.
So I
Might
think
be doing on another number system, and I think there are other calendars out there that has been hidden from us.
yeah,
And I think
if we think
Tartaria
those
has a calendar as well.
they all followed one calendar before that,
Okay,
because
that's the Slavic calendar.
Not it's not Slavic. It's one calendar because uh, it has like 7,564 right now. So it's like 7,564th year right now,
Oh, okay.
and it has a cycle of 144 years. It's called the circle, and each circle has 16-year periods.
Mm,
Each period has its totem animal, and one of them and God, and one of
yeah,
them animals is a bull, and the bull is Wells.
yeah. But yeah, I think um, if we go by some astrologers I know, I think they would say that, well, it's all one calendar, and our different systems of time keeping is just dependent upon what age you're in. So in a lunar age, or yeah, in a water sign age, like for instance Cancer, in the age of Cancer, that people speculate that was when the lunar cults and lunar astrology and the lunar calendar was created, because it was in a water sign. So that's how they piece their theories together. And I think it's interesting to do research by that. But of course, you don't have any data, actual historical data left from those ages. And that is in line with what we think, because we see a world that is, being demolished every 250 years, I think. Or what do you think, Philip? How often do you think the resets occur?
I think we should only guess about it, but as long as we know, the last one was in 19th century, so the previous was probably before like 17th or 18th century. But as you can see there, we'll show the pic again.
Yeah,
The giants have 22 above their heads, right?
yeah.
And
So yeah, sorry, go on.
so it's like, why all those people numbered? Have you researched that?
No, but I have seen these. Well, okay, I haven't. I haven't researched that in itself, but I've seen on other depictions that are very similar to this. They are called carousels in the French, I think, and they number all the different elements of, you know the it's kind of an exposition in the old days, I guess. And so they would number them, and then they will have small descriptions, like, so this could be, they would call, for instance, these giants, and where they were from, and they would call these where they were from, because it's basically trying to showcase all different cultures, I think, like an exposition does later in history. So I think the expositions were like, um, they came from this idea, basically. And you also see uh, dwarfs, or the little
Look,
people.
look at the guys with on the horses on the number 11. They have two pairs with two, how do you call them? Spires, right?
Yeah.
And it's like matches to 11.
Oh yeah. That's interesting. And you also see giants here, right? They look like the giants from Patagonia, because in the depictions we got from those, they are nearly always like half naked or nearly naked. And uh, I think it's the house Farnese or Farnese. They have this depiction on their coat of arms. Also, the Danish crown coat of arms have like this giant with this club, I guess you could call it. Um, and it's interesting because in art, I found Hercules. There's this statue in Rome that's called the Farnesian Hercules, and it's basically like one of these guys, like a giant, like big. So what's up with those? And look how are these regular sized ostriches? Because if these are regular sized ostriches or something, well, if they are ostriches, these guys are pretty big, and these guys are even bigger. You see?
Yeah, I know perfectly that the people were a lot taller, so it
And
doesn't make any confusion to me.
no, so yeah, so basically, maybe the Hobbit, like in the Hobbit, we are like the hobbits or the halflings back in the day, and we were, we were coming, into society like at a slow rate, and then we just, when the catastrophes occurred, we were good at surviving, so I guess because we needed less than the bigger guys did, and we could perhaps use what was left to a better degree because of small size. And we then, I guess, just the little guys were favored in survival situations.
I think we're just cheaper.
Cheaper, for slaves, or
Yeah, cheaper to maintain.
well, yeah, I guess you could call it that. But you would have some people that would be, controlled. But don't you guess that would be a lot of people, back in the day that weren't controlled, were not controlled and were just, out in the open, roaming free around, doing nothing basically.
That's where the government was established first. So as soon as
Yeah,
you had an empire, that's that's when it was all you know mixed up. So people actually lost the idea of their lives
yeah,
because
didn't know how to do it.
it's like when you have a small room, you research everything in this room, right? You know everything in this room. So I'd like to people to watch what you present and then talk.
Yeah,
So I mean, but when you get tired in this room, you want to get out of it, right? And then you
yeah,
search the world, and then you maybe want to go to other places, other countries, other continents. That's where in sailing, right?
yeah.
All this navigations comes out. Maybe you have an air fleet, so you can travel by air. Why not?
Hmm.
So this is where all this idea comes. But actually, we're not talking about this right now, and probably people would get bored. Let's just
Yeah.
follow your presentation.
Yeah, okay. This is the Nordic Arts Exposition in Copenhagen. It is basically right next door to where Tivoli is right now. It's like this in the center of Copenhagen, right next to the train station. There is an amusement park that is very famous in Copenhagen, and this is like in 1890, I think, and there is this light tower, and it is electrical. And remind me, Philip, when did electricity get invented by Edison? Wasn't it 86, 1886?
First one was Yablachkov, and his lightings was like 1860 something.
Oh yeah,
And
but the commercial electrical lighting didn't come out until I think 1886, right?
probably, but
And that's
still,
their official narrative, of course.
they were using gas
Yeah,
to illuminate the streets after 1850s, I think.
yeah.
And
So they say.
today we're gonna have a premiere of Richard's video if it's not yet premiered because it could be uploading slowly. I don't know why. So, and we were talking about the Starfords and probably the connection of Starfords to the gas, and so this is the
Mm,
this is the possibility that each and every town we have right now, each and every big city, each and every uh, huge old city, right, has its own gas.
yeah, yeah, and I think I have some pictures. I can just quickly show you my regular pictures here in Stafford. Just recently found some Stafford images that show that they indeed hold gas. Oh, it might be too hard for me to locate them right now. Okay, but I can send them to you at least.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Um,
fine. Just follow up with the exposition.
yeah. So more illumination in Copenhagen, and they were just very flamboyant. And then here, I guess it's some royal celebration with Norway and Denmark.
Doesn't look like they were saving some money on those holidays. Like it was all eliminated, right?
And I think they kind of couple all these illumination pictures with festivals and carnivals and royal weddings and stuff like that to mask that this was pretty normal. Well, not all these lights, but you would have illumination in the streets at night, every night, I guess, and that's why they try to confuse us with like all these parties and stuff like that, I guess. But I don't know that. It's just a feeling I have. But at least we can see that it was possible to these people to light up a whole city like no problem.
Yeah, probably.
And this is more of the same tower as before in Frederiksberg. Yeah, that was where it was in Copenhagen. Um, and oh, this is missing people in Copenhagen from, I think these are like between 1860 and 1870. And there's supposed to be a lot of people in Copenhagen at this point.
Look at the
And
boats. How many boats there are?
yeah, and there are a lot of boats and
Probably
no.
some horses there.
Yeah, there is a cart right here, but that's what you see in all these people or in all these photos always, Philip, in these empty cities. You have like a group of people that are walking or passing through the city, and then they take photos, and then some of those people get in the photo sometimes, and that's the people we see, I guess, because
Yeah.
the city is totally empty.
And I've been saying it's probably stage pictures, so we cannot just,
We cannot be sure, but it's
yeah,
very weird that you make a hoax and then all the hoaxes you have made, you just put them into an archive and nobody sees them. It's like a reverse logic for me to if you make a hoax, you want to if you have created a lie, you want to tell the lie and repeat the lie, and that's how lying works. Basically, if you want to make a big lie. And I think when these are just like, been dusting away in old archives, I think it gives it much credibility that we can find all these in there. But yeah, uh, they may be staged. Who knows? It would be nice to have some photographic experts looking at all these, uh, you know.
I
But
think experts will will lead us to hospital. Say you
yeah,
guys are crazy.
what
It
I meant
was
to say,
reversed.
I would like someone who is interested in all this, who happens to also be a photographic expert, to look at all this and tell
Yeah,
us what you
they
think.
never been in the 19th century. Never had those photographs taken by themselves. So it's like you have to invent a time machine and then to research it for real. But
Yeah,
they're like indoctrinated with all this paradigm that it was exposure stuff like this. But we see some pictures when exposure that just doesn't work, right?
yeah, yeah, and I'm not very I haven't looked too much into the history of photography, but I've seen Martin's videos about it. And this guy Cornelius, he was definitely a Freemason, and that's interesting, right? That they always invent stuff. They always, if somebody has invented something important or done something important in history, you can bet a lot of money that it was a Freemason, I would say. Uh, of course, there are a lot of people, influential people, who are not Freemasons, but you'd be surprised how many influential Freemasons in official history there are. Yeah,
Everybody,
yeah,
everybody.
everybody. But okay, so here we're watching this, I guess at that time, very famous giant in Copenhagen called Gilly, I think. Yeah,
Hmm.
Gilly. And they say these are his family, his brothers and stuff like his siblings. But I think that what happened to the giants was that after the catastrophe and after the war, a lot of the giants that survived were those who started actually working for the empire. And this was part of their job as being part of freak shows and
Yeah,
circuses.
yeah, yeah.
and that's how they were allowed to survive, because the empire saw them instead of a threat. They could be used as propaganda in some way.
What is
So
your explanation for immediate extinction of the main forces of giant? As we saw a lot of them on those pictures, so they probably had a lot of them. What is your idea of how they could be extincted?
I guess we had wars with them and we persecuted them,
But if
and
there were a lot of them, we couldn't have war,
well,
right?
I guess a lot of them also. I guess they were very unlucky. If there were a lot of them in Asia, we get from a lot of sources, in both in books, and we see on Google Earth that Asia and Siberia was completely decimated by something
Yeah,
very
yeah.
powerful.
This is like okay. This is so your explanation is they were bombed or something like this, right? So,
Yes.
um, but the idea of just you cannot bump everybody, you cannot hang
No,
everybody.
of course not.
You have to make something radical. So this climate or this atmospheric pressure or something like this can affect those giants to become weaker and
Hmm.
to starve and to lose their power and decrease and just they were just hunted by the rest of the survivors, right? And we see all
Yeah.
these pictures like small people hunting those giants and killing them. But before that there was a bombardment which was decreasing the pressure. And what do you have when you decrease the pressure? Their bones become weaker and they cannot just be
Hmm.
as fast as normal people.
No. Okay,
That's
I
what we
see
have
your point.
right now with the basketball players. I think the tallest one, they look like weak and they're like not very able to do as fast as everybody else. And they like have bad knees, they have bad
Hmm.
elbows, they have all this sore stuff after 30, and they like, almost dying without the
Yeah.
medicals. So, I
Yeah,
mean,
I think you have a point there. That even the well, the climate and the atmospheric conditions decreased, especially oxygen levels, and we know this from science. Well, to a certain extent of knowing, at least, um, that the oxygen levels were low, and that could explain the decrease in size in general. Um, so that's interesting to look at the atmosphere as like um,
they're good in open spaces, right? The giants.
oh,
They are not good in the small catacombs or something like this. If they go
no,
all the catacombs, all those bunkers, as long as they went there, they got surrounded by the small people, and small people just don't waste their resources on those big ones, right? They just
no,
kill them. So everybody was on top, got the decrease in pressure, and got their bones weak and died maybe from the heat wave or maybe bad climate, maybe freezing temperatures. Who knows what
hmm,
came first? Because we see all those mammoths who were frozen, so probably a huge wave of cold air and rain and made those freezes immediate. So I don't think
yeah,
all those giants uh, could have hidden, right? And so this is would probably explain when why they were not fighting back, because they couldn't, because they had all this weakening power and force.
yeah,
Probably some of them were who betrayed the other giants, went on the side of small people and started maybe having some relations like master and servants. But as we know about the Gulliver book, Gulliver Travels, right?
yeah,
He didn't quite he wasn't a master in the land of small people. They were just doing whatever they wanted to him, and
yeah,
catching
yeah, I
him
get that.
tying his feet and his legs. So I think it was pretty much the same, and that explains a lot.
Yeah, I think you're right. And there are also some that say that Martin, I think he talks about that you have these homunculus or small people, and they are basically like the clever ones in society. So the big ones are not the clever ones, and the elite, or the Phoenicians, or well, the controllers or the parasites, they like to present the tall people, at least from antiquity, Egypt and Persia, that the giants were like the elite, like a master race. But yeah, here is more of Copenhagen from the
Yeah, we had like
1840s. Like,
master race. We had a king, right? In the
yeah,
chess, we have a king in the chess, right? And what can I do? Can king do? Like he moves very slow, only one square at a time, and he's like very weak. You have to protect the king, and we have this. How do you call it? Um, Not the bishop, but the top one, which can move each and every way and become, whatever. How do you call it? He's closer to the king. How do you call it in English?
the queen.
You call it the queen? Okay,
Yeah.
we call it also the queen. So, but sometimes we call it fers. Fers is like a vizier. It's like a cardinal, or how do you call it?
Oh,
The
that's
main, the prime minister, or the main treasury guy, who
the
is like,
president.
uh, how do you call it?
The president.
Not the president, but the president is the head, and you
Yeah.
have the minister of finance, or maybe a
Oh,
prime minister who is dealing all this stuff, right? So the president tells them what to do, and he's dealing the stuff actually. So it's like
yeah. I guess.
executive manager, or whatever you call it.
Well, an administrator of some
Yeah,
sort.
so
Yeah.
we have a giant king, right, who is like
Yeah.
telling what to do, and we have those administrators who were actually betraying the kings and making reverting their role, and being the cardinal, or black cardinal. We call it the black cardinal. Actually, that cardinal ruled the France. His name was Richelieu, and he's also in that book of royal people.
Oh, okay.
And the Ludovic was just a phony king. He didn't actually rule the country, because this Richelieu guy was actually ruling it, and it was in each and every country the same situation. The kings didn't do anything. They were like having fun each and every day. Only sometimes kings were smart, only sometimes, but most of the time through the history we have all those black cardinals who were ruling and stealing stuff and making all those treasures. That's where the banksters appear, actually, because
Yeah.
banksters were collected by all those cardinals, and the order,
Yeah. That's true.
order.
Yeah, and in Venice, they had the Fundy, which was
Yeah,
basically where all the rich families from Venice, they pooled all their wealth together one place, and that pool of money eventually became the Bank of Amsterdam in the Dutch Empire,
yeah,
and then that bank sponsored the Dutch East India Company,
yes, yes, yes. I
and
know
also
this.
the British one, and that became the U.S. and it was always a British colony, and it still is a British colony
Yeah,
to this
and it
day.
funded a bunch of pirates.
Yeah, it did. So yeah, it did.
That's where they got this Morgan clan from, I think,
Oh
because
yeah,
Morgan
true.
probably was some offspring
He was
of the
also a
pirate.
guy for the Rothschilds, J.P. Morgan. It was revealed after I think the demise of the bank that J.P. Morgan himself only possessed 17% of the shares, and it was a Rothschild who possessed the rest 83%. So that was
Rothschild is also just a
it's also
phony
just
puppet.
some guy, yeah.
He's the mainstream name to claim each and every globalist, but he is actually not. He is just executive manager of somebody.
Exactly. It's so true. He's like this term called Courthof-Juden. Is a very old term. It goes back to Roman days, even where the Emperor Flavius, he had Ben Josephus Flavius. It was the first Courthof-Juden in history, and he was writing propaganda for the Roman Empire. So that's an interesting story, and you can look that up on Wikipedia, on YouTube. It's very interesting to find. But yeah, I want to get on with the presentation because
Yeah.
we're yeah. So this is Copenhagen, and no people around. And now, if you can see it, there is this very faint
Hmm.
tram, and there are no horses, so it must be, electrical, right?
Yeah, looks like it.
Yeah, it could be electrical. So that's interesting. And this, I think we were watching a picture like right around here before, but this is like in the same area, very close by, and no people, and there is some construction going on. And I think
Yeah,
there actually are some people right here. You cannot see them right now, but if we could zoom in more, we could see, I think,
I
one
think
guy here.
they like painting the walls or something.
Yeah, they're doing something, and they're definitely not building anything in Copenhagen at this point. And in this time period, they say that a lot of buildings were built. So
How can I explain lack of footage of actually building stuff? How
if you
can I explain it?
well, you know how they just say they don't actually explain it. They just say they build it, and they don't expect anyone to question that. So
Have you asked anyone in Copenhagen historical, society or something? Maybe they have some sketches or whatever, any
there are
documentation.
always they say that there are always sketches, but and that you can always see them if you do this and do that, and but they are sketches. They don't claim to have photographs of constructions. I haven't seen, or well, I've seen it on the internet that they say that, but I
I
haven't
mean,
actually.
it's okay to build a small building, right? Like maybe these are not very huge ones, but when you have a huge one, you have to have some documentation because
Yeah, and
it's like
also
150 years. Where's documentation?
yeah, and people in architecture today, they document every step of the process very neatly, and in every detail is correctly laid out. So you can redo the process basically, and you don't have that from the old world. You only have sketches, as if someone went in and analyzed how the building's architecture was, and then he drew up how it was with all the correct dimensions, like a surveyor, and then he created an autograph or an architectural plan for that, and that's what we have, and that's what they use as evidence. Um, and they have.
And you're pointing right now, does it have bird windows on the ground? It, no,
Uh,
no,
oh
the
well,
one, the one on the top, the one on top. Yeah, this one.
this one has, yes. Those are buried windows.
Yeah.
And Copenhagen is just full of buildings like that.
So what
It's
about cultural layer explanation, right?
oh, you can they have the same story in everywhere around the world with the cultural layer. And in the city I grew up in, or no, not grew up in, but a city I've lived in for a big part of my life called Vejle in Denmark. In you have this in every city you have like the center where the stores are and you can go shop things. And in Vejle, in the old part of the city, they 10 years ago they just made these see-through glass holes down into the ground, and you could see the old marketplace was like 5 meters below that, and there was no explanation for how the ground was raised 5 meters. It was just they just said they just called it cultural layers.
Yeah. What about raising of cultural layer after this picture was taken? Does it have it rising a little bit?
Well, no, not really. Uh, I don't.
It should grow like 1 meter for 100 years.
Well, according to them, yes, but yeah, they say it happens gradually, right? But it seems to, if we have to accept like their theory, we would have gradual growth of cultural layers still. But I guess they would say that we became so smart at one point that we figured out how to
Started
be
cleaning his
clean.
crap, right?
Yeah, but that's just wishful thinking, and I don't wish for anyone to to want to think that. That's just fucked up. Like, how what is your view of humanity? Like, so you just think that everything is just linear, and we came from monkeys and fish, and it's only now that we're figuring out what 2 plus 2 is. It's just makes no sense. Well, to me at least. Sorry if I offend anyone. But this is also missing people in Copenhagen. It's not.
Yeah, we had a dog or something, right? What is it? So the dog,
Yeah, I think it's a dog.
so
But
was it standing for 30 seconds, right? And not moving?
mm. Oh yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, that this would have to be a very good camera. Yeah, to
And they,
have.
it's like a 1860s, right? Look at the picture.
Yeah, and
1860s,
I
probably.
think all these photos are between 1845 and 1880. 1885. So, but
I've already learned how to distinguish. This is, I bet this one is 1860s because I know the quality they show in
oh
1840s. Like everything is all like all this blur around.
no,
And
you have those yellow tints, right? Yellowish.
hmm,
You've seen those. I have a bunch of the yellow ones. You'll see.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
this is an old. This today. So it was restored at some point, and I think this today is what is called Marmorkirken in Copenhagen, and it was called Frederikskirken at a later point in history.
How do you translate it from
Marmor is a marble. So the marble. Right?
marble, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's very beautiful. But
So
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 this is I think this is after the fire in
so do you,
seven.
why does it have trees growing on the top?
Yeah, that's a very good question. How do you explain the? I think sometimes, Philip. I think those mud rain theories need to be looked at some more. Have you
No,
heard?
when you have a dry mud, what do you have? You have dust. When you have dust, what do you have? You have dust everywhere because if you don't clean this dust for like 10 years,
Hmm.
just
Oh yeah,
imagine
it blows around.
dust storms will be covering all the cities,
Hmm.
all the roofs, all the stuff. That's why the trees starting growing on those
But
because
it,
it's
but,
wet.
but but
It's
it's
wet.
weird, right? But look at this, because this is the only ruin in the city. This is good. This is bad. And then you have trees here, and this is all fine. So maybe these were built right around.
No, they just didn't restore those huge temples because they were probably destroyed as the main objects
Oh yeah.
of the city. Because when you conquer the city, what do? First? You destroy the temples, right?
Hmm.
Because if the temple was a pagan temple, it doesn't fit in your paradigm anymore, and you don't want people to be stay pagan, right? You want them
Oh.
to be Christian. So that's
Hmm.
how you destroy the stuff. But you
Yeah.
keep you stay pagan in fact, because all those masons and all this architectural style that we call colonial style is still a pagan style, and all those statues looking totally Greco-Roman and antique, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Totally.
so they were left. They knew that the paganism is real, and they stayed in this paradigm, and they get all this cover up with Christianity and those Abrahamic religions just to let the people become slaves, literally believe their words and all this stuff. So be abused easy and not learn any science, not look around, not research, just believe and be indoctrinated because this is what my explanation about those abandoned antique ruins everywhere, because didn't want them to be restored.
No, they want to destroy them. It seems. And
Just like Colosseum and all this stuff, they just rebuild it, and it's even written on the Colosseum that it was rebuilt by some pope. So
yeah,
he rebuilt just a little part of it, and just for it to not to totally uh,
but they say it was built by Flavius, Titus Flavius, or was it Vespasian? One of those two. built it 2,000 years ago, supposedly.
Yeah, but it was restored in 17th, 18th, and 19th century by the Pope. So
That's
this
just
is,
weird because in that period of time, I guess there was not a lot of in some of the books I have on Italy, it looks like Italy and France and a lot of part of Germany was just mud flooded ruin country for where a very long time if we go by the timeline in those books. But that would have to be for in another video.
yeah, we had pictures when we have a huge pile of mud close to Colosseums. So it's
Yeah, we have seen those, and also just Rome, like very far back, like in the 1500s and the 1600s, was also completely mud flooded at some point.
yeah, only
So
Mussolini unearthed it.
yeah, and so it has been unearthed and mud flooded at least twice in what we can see. So it's very interesting Rome, and I think it has more layers than we can, and sometimes maybe also just regular volcanic eruptions in Italy have caused a lot of local mud floods. That
Yeah, yeah, sure, 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 sure. I'm pretty much agreeing with all these volcanoes because I've seen a couple of them by themselves. So it's totally looking like a clay after it's drying out.
yeah. Oh, look at this. This is like I think it's more artistic view of. I think it was this was between Sweden and Denmark in the 1600s. I'm not quite sure, but at least some. It's around Copenhagen area, and you see all this star fort formation, and
Mhm.
it's just very artistic. But yeah,
So they were in the same union of Hansa, and they were fighting each other.
yeah. At some point they were, and then they came together in a union, and basically decided not to fight anymore. So
Hmm.
yeah, I think it was.
So probably it was back where this Carlos was the king, right?
Yeah, I think so. But I'm not. I haven't actually. I haven't looked too much into the Danish side of all this quite yet. I have looked at a lot of cities where I'm just walking around and browsing them, especially in my city. And I have got a camera now. I'm ready to go out and film a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it would be
Uh,
nice to see some footage.
yeah, because we don't really have a lot of activity going on in Denmark. So I guess I'll have to be one of the first. But I'll wait for warmer days because it's very cold still.
Yeah, I know, I know, I know.
So yeah, but okay, this is more of the exposition, and they always have obelisks in these. I find, and this bottle, I think it's a very famous bottle, still standing in Tuborgvej in the southern part of Copenhagen. And yeah, I think this is the one, and it's still standing around in Denmark somewhere else. But and it originally had like this lighting device on it.
Look at the column to the right.
Yeah, the obelisk, or yeah, the column, and they have one. Um, there are a lot of small obelisks standing around in Denmark in weird, like random places. There's something rotten in Denmark, as Shakespeare said. This is a restoration of, I think, 1870, somewhere in Copenhagen, and I found this.
Yeah, looks like they putting up the crosses on top, right?
Yeah, and is this like a casing for
Yeah, just
the
yeah.
yeah.
It's a rebar reinforcement, something
Yeah,
like that.
something like that, right? So I think that was interesting. I've not seen such construction photos too often. They are hard to find.
I
And
mean, look at the right part of the roof. It's totally completely built and doesn't look even restored. So I mean, they changing only the part with the cross.
yeah, you
It's
might be
like the
right.
middle part. And,
Yes,
and here we have a flag in the guy's hands or something like this. Or what is it? Another cross? What is it?
I think it's a flag. This is a flag. But
Right.
yeah, it's a
Yeah. Isn't it strange that 4 or 6 countries have the same type of flag,
yeah.
or
Then
maybe even more? How do they explain it? And
and it's
when
very
those flags
interesting.
appear, at what age?
It's very interesting with the Danish flag. We have this very weird narrative about the wars in what was it, Latvia? Uh, the Yeah. Oh well,
Lithuania,
in the seven
Lithuania,
countries,
Lithuania.
yeah, and they say that our flag fell down from heaven. It's a religious story when you hear it. But I have found by accident out something very interesting going through my own family history. That basically my family founder Niels Bugge, he was very close with the Danish king Valdemar Atterstad, and in 1347 he went to the Holy Land, it is described, but it's not quite sure if it as a. I think it's Jerusalem, but it's just termed the Holy Land. And they were reportedly knighted as on the grave of Christ. So they were either Templar knights or Cathar knights to
Ah,
some
just order of somebody. So
some
whatever.
some some high order. And when the king returned from his pilgrimage with my family founder Niels Bugge, that was the first official uh, sign of the Danish flag. We saw it on his crest when he returned from his journey, and that was on Wikipedia some years ago. And I
Hmm.
found it, and I took a picture of it. And I'm very sure I still have that picture somewhere in my stash of memes, and it's very long time ago. But I cannot find it anymore,
You
so they
know,
have removed that.
you
And
know, Daria, that continent on the north, had a flag. You know how that flag looks?
no, I'm not sure.
It looks like a cross in the middle. It's like a yellow, I think, yellow cross and a blue, totally looking like Swedish flag,
Yeah.
but the equal cross. So if you look at the Swedish flag but have an equal cross, this is how it looked. The
Oh,
flag of the area, and it represents the four split part, because when you look at the diary from the air, you have those four rivers, right?
yeah, yeah, Hyperborea, yeah.
So that's why they probably were okay with those flags, because they were probably the same type of persons. They were just evacuating the area and
Mm.
spreading to the northern parts of Europe and Eurasia and maybe Northern America.
And I also think that we talked about Tartaria, the word after the suffix aria. I think perhaps originally it was Aurea or Tartoria or Orients for the Orients instead of, because everything just seems to be
No, no, no.
where our
Aryans is
history
okay,
started.
because Aryan is definitely the case, believe me, because Aryan is the name of those who were farming. It's a farming class.
Okay.
So the farmers were Aryans, and it's called in Sanskrit. So it's Sanskrit. It's not something Russian or whatever. It's Sanskrit, mother of all the languages as we know right now.
Yeah,
So
that's interesting. I haven't heard you talk about that before.
it's a well-known fact. So it's like
Oh,
in each and every book, Aryans are the farmers. So
oh,
it's
that's
like,
interesting.
so
Okay.
why did Hitler thought Aryans were the fighters? I don't know. He was
Hmm.
very wrong, because Indo-European languages all started from Sanskrit, and Sanskrit has a definition for Aryans as the farmers.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
But
that's
but
something
but in Russia, all the farmers could fight, of course. So
yeah. No surprise there. Because they seem if you it's very funny because when you the modern conception of Russians in Denmark is like, if you go by YouTube and fail videos, they think everybody in Russia is just crazy. And
no, of course, of course. I just just fed my bear and
yes.
when chatting with you.
Well, it's crazy, right? I remember when I was little, my father had a Russian friend, and I remember asking about what type of country Russia was, and he told me it was a very dangerous country and not to go there.
Yeah,
Whoa.
perhaps in the 90s it was way more dangerous, but now it's okay.
Well, yeah, I guess it was. There were periods where it was dangerous, of course, but not anymore, at least. So, but yeah, enough
Yep.
about that, because I think this is very interesting. This was in Tivoli. It was said to be the largest theater or theatrical venue in the 50s, the 1850s in Copenhagen, and they tore it down because it was too small, and they got something better. Like, and they built that in 2 years, and it was also very Tartarian looking.
Yeah.
So it's, I think that the amusement parks sometimes serve as a purpose for hiding all these, and also with the expositions, of course, hiding all these out of place buildings in European cities. So that's how they do it. Basically, they just say that they put these together in 2 years' time. No, well, in very in months sometimes, and they are made out of cheap materials, and they are just something artistic to make a good view, and it's only aesthetics basically. But I think these buildings are from the old empire, and we just inherited them, and then we use them sometimes. Some use some of the buildings to fool people afterwards into thinking all sorts of things about um, the different nations of the world, because that's the theme I see in these expositions. That you have, like in Paris exposition, you have the Belgian house, and you have the African temples, and you have the Chinese buildings, and it's like this whole atlas of the world they create an amusement park, and they are dividing the world and dividing our perception of what was once one culture, I think, or at least a very large culture on the face of the earth, and how they had all sorts of different buildings and types of constructions, and they served different purposes, I think, but they were also different cultures under one empire. So, and they had different types of building, the same type of energy machine. And then afterwards, they just decided to cut up the empire, and then they created nations sometimes based on these uh, cut up cultures. And they had to, because in many cities, because the cultures were so close, I guess they built a lot of the same, that they built their own types of buildings right next to each other to mix them somehow. I don't know why, but I feel this is what happened. And then afterwards they had to divide all these different types of buildings, why they would be together, because they had created other stories, and they had to, they created traps for themselves because that's the new way to think about the parasite. Not that they are this very powerful entity that control everything, but because they inherited everything from the empire, they had
No, yeah, of course they cannot control everything. You're
they,
right.
they can't. So, and they had to create a lot of lies in their situation, because imagine if you had created, if you had taken everything, you had to take everything over, and you had this new population and they didn't know everything. You know that you have to lie a lot to
Yeah.
keep up with the narrative, and you have to create all these crazy stories to support the lie, and you have to repeat it so many times, and that's why some of their lies are just crazy and they seem incompetent. Why would they create lies that are so crazy and outrageous, ridiculous, when you really look at them? and it's not because they're stupid and because they troll or because they're funny or any. It's because they had to. There were no other way. They had to create certain types of lies because they were forced to. That was their only game plan because they couldn't destroy all the architecture in the open while people were still around. That would be noticed and it would be questioned and it would be they had to create all sorts of narratives to explain why certain things would happen and why it wasn't, you know, not normal. So
I mean, when
it's a
you
bit
look,
complicated, but yeah.
when you go to at least like Istanbul, right, or Constantinople, you see the Sophia Cathedral, right,
Yes.
which is right now um, a Muslim's temple, right?
Yes.
But it was before the Orthodox temple. So
Mm.
just a little change in architecture, and you get you get the Orthodox style. Like in the previous picture, if you get rid of these thin towers and put the crosses on top of those,
They become orthodox. Yes, I
yeah.
get what you mean.
So
And also you see. Oh wait. What are we seeing now? Okay. Oh no, just never mind. Um, I'll just put on something again. You're still? Are you watching my screen?
yeah,
Okay, sorry for that. It's because the Saint Andrew's cross, looks very much like the types of cross you see on the Siberian and the Russian churches.
yeah. And
Like,
where's the book of Saint Andrews? Hmm? You
where
have
it is?
where is it in the Bible?
Uh,
They had this book and they erased this book from the Bible, you know.
I don't know anything much. I don't know much about that. I'm sorry.
Because Saint Andrews was the guy who was actually this, and his brother Peter were catching they were catching the fish, is what they say
Oh
in the
yeah,
Bible.
that's
But they were not actually catching the fish; they were catching the slaves. They were uh,
yeah. They were fishers
hunting,
of men.
hunting the slaves,
Yeah.
fishermen of man. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and they hunting the slaves, and Jesus told them, "You guys are way wrong, hunting those bio robots everywhere. Like, why don't you like follow me, right?
Mm.
And I can walk you on the water, can teach you walking on the water and all this stuff." So and he was their teacher, and they followed him, and they wrote a book. So Andrew also wrote the book, and it was in the Bible before the edition, and now it's escaped. And I
Yeah.
asked one pope, "Why did you get rid of this book?" He said, "I didn't read it." I said, "Don't lie to me. You read it." So it says like, "Don't go to the north."
Yeah. The
I mean, what?
Freemasonry, the North is evil.
No, it says like, "Don't go to the north." He said Jesus told his disciples no, not to go to the north because those people are fair and fine. They don't need any religion. You know,
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
that's what he told them, and it's written in his book. You know,
So that's why, and also a lot of there are a lot of gospels, and they erased a lot of them. So and in the other gospels they talk about, or in some of the other gospels they talk about certain topics that you just cannot know about, certain ideas, like as you
yeah.
just mentioned, Philip.
And they put him on this cross. He died on this cross. You know, have you heard about it?
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard. I live in Denmark. We're a Protestant country, so called, and Protestantism is from Venice originally.
So
So
I mean, the Saint Andrews was murdered on a different type of cross, and it
yeah,
was
it was wasn't
like,
it? It was bent.
yeah, like a flag of Russian Navy and British, I think, something. So also having this flag
Yeah, it's just like Scotland.
in Scotland also, yeah.
Yeah, and when you put the Saint Andrews and the Saint Patrick's crosses together. You have the Union Jack.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes.
So and that's the double cross, and we all know what the double cross mean. To make a double cross, right? That's to be deceitful. So, but yeah, this is the same. One is called the Bazaar. This one still exists, and they still have lighting shows exactly like this. It's very interesting if it is the same technology, but this is before common electricity. This is like the 1870s. The stamp is from, if I remember correctly. And so they had these illumination technologies also in Copenhagen, right in Tivoli. And look how the crosses themselves are made of.
Equal crosses. These are equal crosses of the
E-
area.
Equal crosses, yeah, exactly. That's interesting. I haven't noticed that. They are not your regular T.
Chat with me more, and you
I'll look more.
you get the eye. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I guess that's. I have to look into more about the area. This is Copenhagen. I think. Yeah, Copenhagen a little later. I think this is a later photograph. I don't know why it's in there.
This looks like
Oh,
60s of 19th 20th century.
yeah. Yeah. Exactly. But look at the domes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this
Very
is that was the church that was in ruins before.
nice. It looks like totally the St. Isaac's Cathedral in St. Petersburg and Capitolium in Washington, D.C. and Rome, what do you have? St. Paul's Cathedral, right? In
Yeah,
Rome.
it looks like the same post cathedral, very much so. And these were this is very much how it looks like today with this dome and stuff. But it doesn't have these two.
Hmm.
They were removed, or well, they were demolished in the fire in the 1700s in Copenhagen, and
The fire.
that was a fire. Yes, I can't remember. Yeah, you know, you always hear about the fire, and it was very funny about how this white marble always burns, like, and the flames are always like 100 meters tall or something in the pictures we see.
Marble construction proves that it was built back when the weather was softer, because marble is totally affected by the humidity and the temperatures.
Hmm.
If it's get a low temperature when it's freezing, water is crushing the marble very easy. So
Oh, that's interesting. Do you have a video on that?
it's a well-known fact as the physical qualities of marble. Nobody puts the marble on the outside walls in cold areas because it's totally nonsense.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's interesting. That's very interesting. That is because
Only in hot land when you have hot weather.
and we think that I think that the Danish history is very much rotten. Like in the northern countries, we have in recent history not been told about that we had a warmer climate. I think in the Renaissance and before that, that the
Do you have any pictures when the people have warm clothes on after 19th
I
century?
just found I
Before
just found a picture today of some pirates coming to Denmark. Like one picture, but it was very interesting because the only buildings that were around were Roman temples, and the Danish people wore togas. So basically, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
Very
but yeah, I have that picture on my phone. But I think I will share it very soon. So.
okay.
And this is the Nordic Exposition in Copenhagen, and it looks very much like the building, this train station we still have today with these
Red brick,
and
domes,
brick.
huge arches. It's
Yeah.
all Tartarian style, and those towers, of course.
Yes. And someone pointed out that construction-wise, it was very weird to have towers like this very close to the ground, but I couldn't understand the argument because I'm not an expert in construction and in constructing anything. But I think I thought I would ask you: is there anything about like the construction of this that tells us that it's mud flooded, perhaps that it was perhaps taller.
I
Seeing,
mean, the problem is that you have to do an excavation or have them do it, and then you go
mm,
there and sneak and picture it. This is how you find out because there's no other way they're gonna let you in there. They'll
oh,
tell you it's anti-terrorist attack or something like that.
but
Don't go
I
there.
know personally that Copenhagen is full of tunnels, and
That's what I'm talking about.
yeah,
That's
uh,
how we find out our evidence because when you see a building that which has buried windows after excavation, it's a proof, right?
yeah,
So
it's a proof.
any building around is also has buried windows, so it's a kind of leading us to conclusion that those buildings also have underground floors.
Yeah,
And when you get lucky, you go there and check it out by yourself, and you see it's truth. It's what
yeah,
I'm doing. And near my office, I'm just sneaking all around all these cafes, restaurants, and looking if they have those buried windows inside.
yeah, yeah, and that's also what I want to do when very soon, because it's very easy to convince people that you can go and check as it's not something you're not asking a lot doing that.
Yep.
So, and Rebel Without a Pause, shout out to him. He's a cool guy. He does that a lot, and he films it.
Yeah.
So if you want to get some inspiration, you can go check out him.
Yeah.
So so yeah. Well, okay. I guess we best also move on. So we get to some of. I have some other stuff I really want to show you. Oh, it's because it's all fragmented. Okay, I want to show you um, these round forts because in your live with Richard, you
Yep.
talked about other types of forts, and I think these are very interesting. Um, I found these in a book on Irera, the Zurich library. I can link it if you want
Yeah,
because
you can if you want me to post any links under this description, just send me after the chat and I
yeah,
will put them in.
I'll do that because especially this one is very very interesting. Look at these. It must be 1, 2, 3, 6, so over 10 stories high, tall. Sorry. Uh, and very large compound buildings, like
Yes,
something very modern looking,
very thick walls.
very thick walls, yes, and very industrial, right? It looks not like
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. The production building,
yeah,
factory or something like this.
exactly, exactly. So and I don't in the book. It's a French book, and I don't know. I don't read French, but I think there are people right now reading it and translating it. Um, shout out to those guys. They are awesome doing that. We need a lot of help in all. We have so much data, right? uh, and these forts are not named, all of them. Some are, so maybe they are just plans, but I think it's very amazing that even though if they are only plans, that you would even draw something in a period where we are told that no, bring out your dead, as Martin says.
Yeah,
Everybody's stuck in the mud, and only the aristocracy can afford any luxurious living. And then you have some peasants running around, or architects creating these images. Why? It's very weird, right? uh, why would
yeah.
you do that? And but some of these forts we know existed, and we have a lot of other forts
I
we
mean,
know.
look at the buildings like that. They're often used like prisons and stuff. Something.
Yeah, they could be old prisons.
No,
Or
right now they're prisons, but before that they could be anything, right?
yeah, yeah, I'm all with you because one guy pointed out that the thickness of the walls could indicate that they also were prisons, but I think these are something entirely different. Also from the star forts because they don't seem to be connected to water. So I think these are something else, but I don't know. I have no idea. I wouldn't even start to speculate on what these are because um, I think we just need at this point to show all the evidence or find everything we can. And then we need, as you said in some of your videos, we need someone, we need a lot of people coming from their level fields of knowledge, and we have to talk everybody together about our history and what we have not been told. Um,
We need to infect somebody who can do it, right?
yeah, but and if we don't get that, we just have to do it by ourselves. So we were gonna do that either way. But how awesome it would be to have like someone who is not only an expert but like truly a genius like in some of these fields and to help out. That would be awesome. Not that there aren't geniuses already helping out, but you know, someone. It would be nice if someone like in knowing much about forts would join the conversation and yeah,
I
just
think everybody is a genius, in fact, but we just been under the frequency, and this frequency doesn't let us think as we used to, and have the fast thinking, fast making conclusions and reactions, right?
yeah, yeah. You might be right. I also like the idea that we all have the potential or like the divine spark, or as Plato would say, um, or the beauty, or we all have a little part of God inside us.
It's like the survival show. You start to survive since you're born until the day you die. So it's like,
Yeah, somebody sees it like that. Uh, there are a lot of viewpoints, luckily, but
oh, this triangle is very fine.
yeah,
Looks
look
like,
at
yeah, looks like some energy field production blueprint.
yeah, and it has this one is kind of like it has elements of being the regular star fort, and then these rounded um, forms as well, also in the middle, and
It looks like energy fountain. Like you have water around it, you have the fountain of sparkling the water in the air,
yeah.
and those drops of the water, the vapor, connects to the water on the border of the star fort and creates this power field, which doesn't let charge power field, right?
Oh, yeah, that's interesting because if you could get it to spin also, then you could create a sort of
Have you heard about vaporization, all this stuff?
yeah,
Vapor. So vapor is and steam itself is very physical, and
yeah,
it can have a lot of properties we don't know actually.
yeah. It's very useful, right? Because how many from if you boil like a liter of water, how many liters of bottles can you fill with the steam? I think very very many, a lot, like very very many.
Yeah, water gets the power with the steam, so
Yeah, so steam is water, and steam is just very useful in all sorts of ways. And yeah, also you have hydroelectricity. It's still
yeah,
being used
yeah.
in Denmark. We have still, out in the country, we have hydroelectricity. A lot of places in Denmark, and still supporting the small towns and stuff like that.
What about ultrasound vaporization? How does it sound to you when you
Hmm.
have ultrasound vaporizes water into a cold vapor, which also has some properties? And what about the water mills? They
The
could
water.
be used in water mills, like the mills that could be used for anything. Like,
Yeah, yeah, and someone also in my Discord, or well, in Certus Discord channel, pointed out that some of the star forts seem to be like water mills sometimes, where in the bottom of the fort, if they are in water, they take in water as a water mill would do, and use the the motion of the water
Yeah,
to mill. Yeah.
it turbines the water, and I've had a video. Maybe I'll find it later sometime. When you have a regular flow of the river, and you have like a small part of the water taken into turbine, and this turbine is creating the spinning movement like we have in the canalization when we flush the water, and it spins and speeds up the water so it produces the maximum potential energy without
Yeah.
harming the fish, without harming the nature, right? And creates this flow of energy towards the power, which can power the cottage or maze, whatever estate, real estate, or maybe even a huge town if you have a huge flow, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. And well, there's so many interesting things about it. Really. Look at these also. Well, they have they sometimes I think if you look at these as wheels, would it be interesting to conceptualize if these could be like wheels turning sometimes? If they could, if you could see these as wheels, maybe these could perhaps move around, like turn, revolve in like a
I mean,
circle.
what is first, the earthworks works or the brick?
It's a
Earth
good
is
question.
earthworks. So they first they did the earthworks. So this form could be used to produce some torsion energy, right?
Yeah, that's why I think that maybe these the some of the parts could like be wheels on wheels.
Yeah, I understand. But I mean, the bottom part is the earth, which was brought into some type of how do you call it? A wall, right?
Mm, yeah,
We we call a wall not the brick wall, but the wall from the earth, from the soil, from the clay, from the mud,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah. I get you.
So earthworks were created first, and then the people came and used the earthworks to create in the brick walls on the top of them. Because
Mm,
it's really stupid not to use it because it already has all this channel around, so they
yeah.
can use it as a water channel and has it have it as a fortification. This is probably what turned the people to Stone Age or something like this, or Mid Ages, and they use this technology to fight back. And I don't think it's very efficient technology, as Richard says. I don't want to be locked up in the city when the people
No,
surround it.
no,
So,
no, no. That's true. A
but,
very good point.
but if they had some gas there, it could be used to produce some energy field, and this is how they survive for a very long time, right?
Oh yeah, and I think it's worth to look into because in the or was it in in Romania or Serbia? I think one of those two. In oh no, Bosnia maybe. There were one of the pyramids found in Europe in one of those three countries, and when the government went in there to inspect them inside tunnels, there was like this force field reportedly that, and they couldn't break through the force field. And it sounds very science fiction like, but it's a real story and you can look it up.
Have you heard the word core?
Core?
Core, like Intel core
Yeah,
processor.
yeah, core. Yeah,
Yeah,
like from the
this is
heart.
the core. So they cannot enter the core just simply.
Yeah, it's like the holies of holies, the inner temple. It's only for um
You have to turn the off. You have to turn it off to open it. So
yeah, yeah, and you have to know what how. Um, so you have to have the knowledge. But
core is only for the crown and for the kings. It's open for them. They have the keys, and we don't have them.
yeah, like Don Corleone.
Yeah, because Coro is the king.
Yeah,
Carol is the king. So the guy who
it's
has
also
the
in
keys
heart.
to the core is the king, you know?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Oh, wow. Oh, I've forgotten about that one. Look at this.
Yeah,
It
processor.
looks like metal. It looks like it's built out of metal, this one, but it's probably not. It's just very intricate, uh, very technologically advanced, I would say. You just
How do you call
you
this?
were not
Conductor.
shown these in school. You were not shown these in school. Not one word was spoken about these forts in school, and I think it's very suspicious, very suspicious, to say the least. And I'm being nice here.
Yeah,
uh,
it's not counter battery technology as they tell us. The forts were used for counter battery attacks. So it's like when the enemy brings a close artillery to your fort, those star-shaped things are used to counter their batteries of cannons of but
yeah,
I don't think it's really working because we don't have any forts
and
with the
you have
cannonballs destruction marks.
no, you don't. Well, you have that some. Well, no, actually, you're right. We don't have those. We have small marks sometimes. They wouldn't be cannon marks. They would be something else, I think. But cannon marks, we are lacking of. But they also the whole idea that you have these stories where some famous forts of bigger cities in Europe, you would have a story about one of the forts being able to defend the entire city uh, during some point of history in a war or something. But then it's only like this very small fort, and it's located like as a readout. Like how could a small fort defend an entire city if it was the city was attacked? Like it would be the fort would be like displaced from. It's just weird that they just create these stories about the star forts and expect us to just even military people that should be able to very easily deduce that it's very stupid that to be in a star fort in like as Richard said, you don't
Yeah,
want to be there.
I have simple technology how to conquer a star fort in a week or maybe 2 weeks. Just
Yeah.
just bring some weed and burn it close to the star fort so the wind can blow it, and they're gonna be eating and eating all their resources in a week, and they don't have any resources, and they will give up.
Yeah,
That's it.
exactly. It's very stupid. So so I guess we don't know. It's an intriguing mystery still, the star forts, but I think we will soon solve. I think it's like the next thing we're going
I mean, no
to
joke. What do you
solve.
see on in all those historical paradigm pictures and movies? What do you see when the forts are surrounded? You see all those fires, people starting fires, and maybe what are they doing with these fires? So they, figured out how to start a fire, but they didn't figure out how to smoke those people in the star fort, right? Just
Mm,
figure out where the wind blows, put some trees, all those grass, dry stuff, and dry and not dry, whatever. Just pull it all together in this huge fire and smoke them out.
yeah, yeah, I
That's
see.
it. That's easy,
That would be
easy.
very easy. Yes.
Yeah. So just a couple of weeks of smoking out, and all those people we're gonna give up because it just
Yeah.
don't make any sense.
No.
So of course everybody was out and everybody was fighting in the fields and they were trying to prevent the invasions, and I
Yeah,
think
I guess they were protecting the star forts, right? That's why we see all these military battles around star forts because it seems that they were military targets
yeah,
always.
of course they're the targets.
Yeah, they're the targets, but why? They must be very valuable, right?
Yeah, you control the propaganda, you control the technology, if you control the Starfort lines, or because they
Yeah.
call the lines and lines. Because why the lines? Because the line is the railroad or some tunnel which is connecting the stations. And the Richard's theme. Also, I'm be talking about those names because in Russian we call them stations. And
Yeah.
stations could be like a gas stations or railroad stations.
Yeah, also electrical, because you have the four first letters stat, as in static electricity, perhaps.
Static, but what is the static electricity without the station which collects it?
Yeah, yeah, I get what you mean. In the stat ion, it's like
Yeah,
an ion collector or something. I don't know.
yeah.
Uh,
We
yeah.
call it stanция in Russian or станица. Станица is a small unit of town. So
Oh,
like
okay.
so probably it's the same type of route as always, and we have it all around.
Oh,
So
yeah,
star is also станица, star for also have this star in the first three letters, and so the
yeah.
route is the same. Станица, станция, station, it's all the same route.
It's interesting. That's very interesting, because maybe like those ideas are very, and also because we know so little of the actual stars in the heavens.
Yeah, like you said, the emperor's name was Valdemar, right?
Yeah.
And how do you translate it? Valdemar.
Uh, but it has. Well, I don't know actually. I
But
don't.
if you say the Russian original of this name, it's Vladimir.
Oh
Vladimir.
yeah. Okay.
Vladimir. It's the owner of the world. That's it.
Oh, interesting. I also live on a street named Valdemar Street. Just coincidental.
Vladimir and Valdemar is the same name. Believe me.
Yeah, I guess I can see that. And
It's just like when you have some uh, Arabian guy trying to speak your language, you have this resonance, which is like accent, and he cannot pronounce all these letters
Mhm.
as many French cannot pronounce R like I can.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I get your point. So,
Americans also don't pronounce R, but they can say it like when they uh, talk in Mexican language, Mexican accent, they pronounce it the R, and Russian. So they can say R, but they don't use it. And Jews actually don't use R also
no,
in
that's true. That's true. And the Spanish populations, they also have all types of different
yeah. So
words.
it's
Arr, arr.
it's the problem of accent, man. So
Yeah,
it's because they split and divide the people.
yeah. And the language is where they start. Is the source.
Who wants the union of stations, right? Who wants it? Nobody wants it. They
Well,
want us to
who's agreed?
starve in the star forts, right?
Mm.
Because what do you do in the star forts when you're surrounded? You starve.
Yeah, you starve the starving people. Well, look at this one I found recently. And this is a large pyramid, I think, because look at if you compare it to the houses right next to it. I don't think they would create such a large pyramid if it wasn't very large. So this is in Sibinice in I don't know how to pronounce it. It's in Croatia, or in this time it was Dalmatia. So I think it's very interesting that there's this very large pyramid here,
Hmm.
Colina Pyramid.
Yeah, look at those terracones all around. These are mining terracones, guys.
Oh yeah,
It's just the mining evidence everywhere. And the factory was in this pyramid.
perhaps yeah, that would make sense. And yeah, I guess you're right. That because I have a lot of pictures where you can see that these are empty inside sometimes, hollow. I mean,
Yeah.
um,
The byproducts of mining, they create those terracones because it's easy to get rid of this waste byproducts. It's
yeah.
just the same.
So
And sometimes they have a pyramidal form, like sharp edges and stuff like this.
yeah, and I also think that these, and like as you said, that these pyramids sometimes were just connected to a lot of different industries. Uh,
Yeah. I think we made a video. Arjun made a video about it when I made a video about it. He made a cool video about a chemical plant in Giza. So
oh
if you have,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
all sorts of theories on what type of energy machines these pyramids were, and it's just like it's very hard to prove, right?
I mean, you were after reset, right? You went out, you have a whole bunch of slaves around. Like, what do, right? You don't have much resources in your reservoirs in your underground facilities anymore because you were like spending 100 years there and wasting all this stuff. So you have a limited access, limited resources, and you have all those people around starving, right? And you
Yeah.
have to do something. You have to make them do something for this food that you give them. So you let them build all those huge devices because you cannot just build miniature something to produce simple effects that you want from, like, you can make a cell phone which is very small, or you can make a huge uh but huge cabin. Like in London, you have a cabin for.
Mm.
So to create a cell phone, you have to create a cabin, or maybe if you don't have a cabin, you have to create a pyramid to call somebody in the other cell, or maybe some survivors on other continents, or maybe communicate with them, or maybe you have to do some chemical reactions, which are simply explained in these forms and all these tunnels, all those things like this. So maybe it's a micro scheme which is looking, it's connected to the torsion fields and all the static, atmospheric, and other types of energies that we have
Yeah.
on our planet, and plane versus flat. Uh, but you have these stupid channels all around it, and which have like a closing gates and stuff like this. So this is all chemical production, and probably motor purpose for maybe calling your Skype contacts
Yeah.
also.
Yeah, and that's very interesting. I guess we could talk for hours about that, but I also want to get on to show some. I guess I'll move more quickly past them because I also want to show you some other stuff, maps I've found. But I wanted to show these forts because they are just amazing, and I'll link the book, and you'll get to see.
Yeah, we can just, share those pictures and not
Yeah.
waste the people's time. Just get to the important parts and maybe finish this chat with this resume that we have to film more, guys. You see, just a person, just a young man, 25 years old, student, he is getting this material. Look how many material he got. He just, started. He just started and he got all these pictures that nobody ever saw. Like, I mean, and so many proof in these pictures, and
Yeah,
it's easy
at
to
least
do
it
it.
shows another reality, right? Uh, it's like this hidden
we
part of
can we
history.
can talk an hour about each and every one, so we can spend the whole year just talking about his pictures because they are interesting and really nice to research. And you can do the same. You can find your own books, your own pictures, and present to the people, so we can, connect the dots actually, like.
Yeah, and yeah, I want to. That's also my main. I want to inspire people to do that as well because the archives are just full of interesting stuff if you know what to look for. But you got to know what to look for because then if you if you see a unicorn on a map and you just go like, okay, that's just a guy's crazy imagination, and then you move past it, then you're not probably not going to find too much. You have to be like uh, willing to accept another reality because people fought very differently, it seems. Very differently, like everything was different. uh,
People are passing those buildings each and every day and just not caring. But we show them what to look at, and they start and looking at it, and so many people filming it. So it's
yeah,
like, and those evidence in the books is very astonishing. In fact, what Martin does is like showing all those ancient books. And I think it's very fine for people to see these pictures, to make their own decisions on how fake or real
Yeah,
the information and official narrative is.
I totally agree because we nobody can know for sure anything about these types
Right.
of things. But what I can say is when you go through them and look at them, and when you hear the mud flood theory and you hear the Tartary theory, it's very difficult not to accept that there is something very real to at least the mud flood theory and Tartary. Perhaps we have to study a bit more to say conclusively what happened, but it seems very promising that we find all this evidence right now, and we have evidence also from the modern times, CIA documents talking about falsifying history and erasing Tartary from history and how it was.
This dragon that's flying in the air is also, people wrote me in the comments, you talking about the dragons, man? Are you're crazy. Like, you breeding, the Chinese were breeding dragons? Like, I said, no, not only Chinese were breeding dragons, everybody was breeding dragons, but
It's
Chinese were really good at it, you know.
Yeah, and I think they are alchemical creatures. The alchemists were able to breed them, and what you see in in Harry Potter basically is very. I think it's closer to the reality of the old world people, uh, and that's just nuts to say. I know, but that's what I believe that after going through all this, because it's very easy just to say, well, they are just crazy, they are just on acid, they are tripping balls, and
Like Alex Jones in Joe Rogan's show, for how many hours they had it live stream, and it started with this stuff about conspiracy theories, and like he said, like there's one side when people just believe that everything is false and everything is fake, everything is made up by
yeah,
government, and the other side is totally indoctrinated and believes everything mainstream says, and says, no, you're wrong, look at the WikiLeaks, Wikipedia, look at the encyclopedias, look what the science says, and all this stuff. So they say, like, we are in the middle, but I don't want to be in the middle. I want to be hardcore but true. Like, I don't want to be bending down towards, like, people try to actually, they want to start to call you names as long as you proceed towards your progress, right?
yeah,
And you're gonna have all this hate too if you
always.
go
It's
public. So get ready for this
built
hate.
into our lives that if you do something right, like the real right, like spiritually right, you're gonna get hated for it. So, oh, this one is from a real book I have. This is a photo taken by me, and it's a Christian book, and you just casually have this giant knight among these people. I thought it was amazing when I first saw it. That in and I don't think this book is too old. It's like perhaps 250 years old. So it's very interesting. You can just find this stuff.
Looks
And
like they're carrying some box or something. What is in this box? What do you think?
it looks like some type of Ark of the Covenant type
Looks
of
like
device.
maybe this is a part of somebody's body, like a hand
Very
or something.
small body.
No, no, I mean, like
Oh, part.
what we have, like a bunch of saint people have their parts working in the churches, so people go to the church and pay money to watch it, not like like a donation, like, right, whatever.
Mm,
In Russia, we are buying the candles when we go to the church, so it's like a huge business for selling candles in Russian Orthodox Church, and you go there because you have something like spectacular, like extraordinary. So some picture with we call them icons, maybe can come to your town, or maybe some part of the body of somebody, like some saint person, or like
Hmm.
Saint Nicholas, right? Or I don't know who. So whoever, like a part of the dress of the Christ, like the belt of the mother of the Christ, or something like this. And they're making money with those boxes. Like it's traveling the world, and in each and every town, people gathering to see it, like a huge, event.
Yeah, yeah, I get what you mean.
Like were the Crusades actually? They were capturing those artifacts, like
Yeah,
you know
they happened in sort of the way I think they describe, but the reason for why they happened and what was happening behind the scenes is always something else than what we are told.
follow the money. It's the economy of these things.
Yeah, always the money sets the stage, but you know,
The
it's only the stage. You,
only actors get paid. If you have actor, you have to pay the actor, right? So
yeah. Oh, I wanted to show you something I find one of my I think one of the best finds I have found.
okay,
It's this map of Mexico, and it's fragmented. I'm sorry, but I can show you the middle of the map, and I have it's a Gallica, and you see there are these are all cities. These and
looks
there
like
are
looks like a gas line or a transportation line with a circle in the middle.
yeah, I think these are all cities rounded in a circle, and then you have La Catedral, cinco curas. So something about five curates, I think, but a cathedral at least.
Uh,
And this map is from the 1600s, I think, and you have very large towns, I think, and there are churches in every each and every one of them, and at least they are shown to be connected somehow.
yeah, I mean, this looks like a total map of subway of huge city, and
But
with
look at this, Philip.
yeah, like a
This is amazing.
transportation map, transportation or something.
It could be transportation. That's what I also because I think if it was like some type of energy, I think they would be more connected. I think they would be connected like all of them
You
between.
can be connected through the transportation tunnels.
Yeah, you could. But I think if it was something,
If you have a mountain in the middle of two towns, why don't you, just, walk around the mountain? So maybe this can
yeah,
explain why those like two, three are not connected, but they are close to each other. They're
that close.
connected from the bottom, and this makes sense only if you have mountains or something like this in the middle,
Yeah, yeah. I guess I see your point.
or rivers, or some something like
They
that.
seem to be also going around the mountains.
Yeah. So you
Yeah,
have a landscape, so you have to deal with the landscape.
but how many Mexican cities are there, and how many of them seem to be having large churches? Look at this. This is a tower of some sort, and this is a tower, and this is a tower, and it,
Churches were not what we know.
no, exactly. They were some type of machine.
Yeah, that's why the priests look like electricity workers.
Yeah, and in this book from Joseph Farrell, Babylon Bangers, he goes on about music and how they were like radio electricians. And
Frequency stations, radio stations.
yeah, and you know, in the Catholic Church, they have canon law, and it is known as the law of the air. And they are like Andreas Sertus. He goes on about oh no, goes on, but he talks about the bird people, and you see the bird people in the masks in the Stanley Kubrick film Eyes Wide Shut, and you see them on these those administering the plague, and you see them on Venetian masks. These bird people.
Yeah, I mean, you mean the crow people that I'm talking about? There's a
Uh,
crow. There's a crow mask.
yeah. Also those from your Crown Crow.
This is just the same. The bird people is the people who are the parasites. actually.
And they seem to be some. It's a lot of air symbology and priest symbology
Yeah,
because
because they
they
betrayed
have
us, and
entered air waves, and they go off on a lot of Aquarius symbology because Aquarius is an air sign, not a water sign, but an air sign.
yes, of course, of
And you
course.
see in this new movie, The Birdcage, that there is this fascination about birds and in a cage, and
Bird Birdcage is the entrance to the Navy world because have you watched the movie Cage by Jennifer Lopez? Watch it again. It's the entrance to the Navy world. So
I'll do that. I'll try. Also, because I have to rewatch some of your Navi stuff to remember what's it.
oh,
What,
you just watch the Cage one and you ask me some questions. I think
okay.
you understand what I'm talking about. So Navi is the world of our. We can enter through the dreams, and you can enter through the cage, the bird cage,
Ah,
so-called bird cage.
that's interesting because all this bird symbology seems to be that there's this subterranean element to the bird.
Cage representing lack of freedom. So you close your something in a closed space, and you meditate and you go to the Navi world. That's
Mm,
why you find so many ancient guys in Asia which were closing themselves like yogas and closed poses and covered with rocks and just not moving like like
yeah, it's interesting because
they
I
call it like how they call it some type of position siddha or something like this in Sanskrit. So it's like yoga people know it.
mm, also very interesting with the the Aryan Hindus, um,
Yeah,
who they
because they have this legend and it's perfectly clear if you read their books. They say the white gods came from the north
yeah
and taught them things. And we know as the Dravidian War when we came and freed those people from Kali Ma priests. The Have you watched Indiana Jones about the Kali Ma when he went to some Indian temple?
yeah. I remember the
This is
scene where they eat all the
yeah,
stuff.
heart eating, it's monkey brain eating.
Yeah.
So it's like funny movie, but actually it represents this cult of Kalima.
Hmm.
It's like a underground movement of Indian priests, and these Indiana Jones appeared to, you know,
Yeah,
change their plans of conquering the world again.
yeah. Also, look where India would be on this map. See all these islands here.
Hmm. Indonesia and
Yeah, but aren't there are very there's a lot of them. Look, uh, very like I think some of these are not supposed to be here. I think, and also Australia. But I just I got to think about Lemuria here when I saw this on this map.
so yeah, probably because Indonesia, and
And
Japan, and North Korea, maybe Australia, and maybe New Zealand.
see, I think this one is Australia and this one New Zealand. And New Zealand looks very large comparatively to today. And Australia looks like it has just been broken off from Terra Incognita or Antarctica. And there's this island down here as well, very large island, very close to Antarctica, and I don't know what it is. Um, so I think these are some of these are unknown islands to us. I think, and look at Africa, all the rivers running through it. Like what was this would be Barbaria, and uh, and Europe is completely in islands, and also Asia. Is this post?
Whose map is this?
This is a very interesting, also Japanese map from the 1600s.
Hmm.
I wouldn't know who the Japanese guy or artist is.
That's why they're in the center of the map, because it's their map, of course.
Yeah, is that I think it was it hasn't been available to Western world for very long, but I remember reading a story about this map, and this map was in the possession of the president of the Royal Society of London called Sloan, Mr. Sloan. I can't remember his first name, but Sloan, Sloan, and he
Mhm.
had this map somehow, and it was found in his private collection after he was dead in like perhaps 100 years ago, and then then it was hidden away in the national museums, in the National Archive of England, I think. And then I don't know how Gallica got it, but we got to see this on Gallica the first time ever when it was published there, I think. So it's very interesting, this map. And
Very interesting. They have Hawaii there. Look at the to the right from Japan, some island group. I think
oh
that's
yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, it's very large, isn't it?
looks like Hawaii.
But this is I have a Gallica link for this, and in the in the link you can zoom in and see this. And we had when I posted this on the Mudflug group, we had
Hmm.
someone translate these names, and they said basically that it was gibberish or not. It was basic names like they were hard to make out what they meant because some of it was Chinese and some of it was Japanese apparently. So it's very weird. What's up with this map? And they couldn't make out the names for things. Like they didn't fit anything they knew. So
Have you heard about this multiple cell universe thing that I've been talking about?
the multiple what? Sorry.
Multiple cell. So each world is a cell.
Hmm.
Like we cell have a
Uh,
cells.
I think Martin talked about it, but like in this the seed of life or the flower of life, right? And you have cells stacked around each other.
Yeah, but the central cell has these rotation of the sky. That's how it's connected. So it's looks like the map from the other cell, not our cell. All the cells are looking alike, so you can bring people from different cells if you want, and they can bring their history, their books, their maps, and they can falsify the history of this cell if they conquer it. Okay,
Yeah,
and we really had a war with Chinese, and I think they called some allies or something like this after this war from the different cells. We figured this with this thing is coming and close the gates which were connecting the cells, but they still got here, and they took over the Asia first, I think, then Africa, and then they took off what we know as Europe, and
mm.
then they got rid of Tartaria.
Yeah,
So,
I think that would make sense because
and that's why they want this Tartaria thing in China right now to be in their national paradigm. They pull in that the Mongolia is close to them. They pull in Mongolia in their hands and like not let it go, and they pull in Mongols to Tartars as the world invaders, as the Chinggis Khan Empire and all this stuff. So this is everything was made up in 19th century, and
yeah,
all
I
these
think
theories were made up in 19th century and the beginning of 20th. So who knows actually?
yeah, it's that's what we are finding out, right? That's what we're researching.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to see if I had anything else. This fascist monument in Baltimore. Wait, I have.
I mean, Martin showed some picture that he thinks is a fascist in Chinese book,
Yeah, but
but
look, you have the fascist heroes with the griffins.
I think that Chinese fascist was actually the Chinese gun, which I also uh,
Mm.
found out looking pretty
But
much the same, but the
yeah,
fascists look
they could
different.
be. They could be it could be that the Chinese gun was working on like a fascist
No,
type
no,
of.
no, no, no. Just the Chinese gun on powder. It was a Chinese gun on powder which throw in little arrows first, and then
Okay.
they so those arrows were attacking the armor of the enemy, and it was like a Gatling gun. So it was immediate shot of different multiple arrows.
They were just very clever with the powder, huh?
Yeah, they were actually the ones who were using implementing the powder into military because we used it only as the flashes and the fireworks, and that's it.
Yeah, yeah, and I think I have a lot of books. When I search on Gallica, I search like fireworks word, and I used another word.
We had our stuff working. We didn't need any powder weapons,
But
so
what I
nobody can attack us. And
what I
when
see in the books is what is that you're right that always when you have this fire military, the Tatars are connected to it, and that's why I guess you have all these stories of hell about them and how they were so brutal in wars because they were able to create massive explosions with
yeah,
their.
they were controlling the fire. And actually, what about Greek fire? Have you heard about it?
Yeah, well, we call them Roman fires in Denmark.
The
Or
fire that you cannot shut down with water. So you flow the water on the fire, and it's even growing more and more.
oh, yeah, I've heard about it. It's interesting.
Very
It seems
interesting
to be
technology.
overall technology, kind of. But yeah, I think. Have you seen?
I mean, I'm not in the fascist theory throughoutly, but I think it needs to be researched because uh, I don't support like what uh, is a cargo code fascist, like we have it in
No, no,
like Mussolini times and all those pictures. So it's not like throughoutly used.
no, no.
We know it as a fash, the destroyer, which is the explosion itself, which could be looking like a crater or something like an air explosion, which sucks the inner circle dust into a cone, like a little terracone in the middle of the crater. So
Yeah,
this is what we call a fash. But really, those Roman warriors and the antique time sculptures have the fasces with the X inside, which represents something. I don't really remember right
very
now.
weird. But it seems to be a shape that is used in other fields, in
Yeah,
many other fields.
and
So
there's other fasces without the X inside.
and there's also the fascist lasers of today. They have the exact same, shape, and you have cables with the cover inside laying in that fashion as well, and you have
Yeah,
looks the CERN form and the is like this octagon kind of reminds me of the fascists as well. That a lot of things that reminds me of that shape actually.
yeah. It just not only symbolism, but could be used as a cargo code.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, I agree. And the
just
Templars have this thing with it as well. If you, um,
because how else will they fool the people? So maybe they had one of these working, right, and they showed the people how it works, and they were really afraid. So
yeah,
the people tell the stories to each other. Look, this guy has fascists, right? And
but
then
it,
they got a bunch of fake ones, maybe sold them to other regions, other kings, and those having those cargo cult fascists, and that's how it was, spread worldwide and could be pictured in many pictures because they don't seem to be working devices; they seem to be cargo cult devices.
yeah, I guess you have a point. And but I also there are some pictures showing working fascists, but they are only drawings, of course. But
Of course.
but I think we should follow down Martin's path of investigation and see where it leads us because it's very interesting, nonetheless.
Yeah, I don't like to be influenced by one researcher. I watch everybody
Yeah, me
that
too.
I want. So this is the best part of this path, right? That I chose.
Mm.
So I'm not influenced by anyone. I get along with most of these guys, and I think we agree in the 90% of information that we bring.
Yeah, yeah, or at least at least above 50%, and I think it's a start. And we don't know compared to what we can know, we don't know anything.
Yeah, it's like what that guy has said. I know that I don't know anything, and that's the
Yeah,
only thing that I know. But the
that was
rest of
that
them
was
that doesn't don't know that they don't know anything. So
yeah, that's true. And what if we could only just admit that we are fools, we would be so much wiser,
yeah,
paradoxically.
yeah, really.
And yeah, I also have a lot of this illumination technology, but yeah, I just wanted to show some of the good ones. Like they're very cool. Like look at this, just amazing what they were able to do. I think, and they like to sell it off as this is very special. It only happened once, but I think this was very common to have such technology displayed, I guess. But it existed, it seems, and and it was electrical. And you see these domes here, and you see water. And I don't know. Well, there is water sometimes connected with these technologies, and I have a book about um, artificial fires, and it talks about how many of the artificial fires of the Tartarians were water powered. So water powered electricity. Even still water, like water from a lake, were harnessed on the spot to make electricity somehow. I don't understand much of it, but it's very interesting that they would claim that. Um, yeah. So I think I don't have much more to show
Yeah,
right.
that'd be fine for the first chat. I think people, if you guys want to find out more, just visit this video maybe tomorrow, and you check the links in the description that we're gonna put, and check some of those pictures by yourself in high resolution, and maybe ask some questions if you want to ask them, of course. So
Yeah.
thanks a lot, Victor, for joining, and let's hope we are not stealing any people from the premiere of Richard, and let's shut it off before he gets pissed off.
Yeah. Okay. That. We better do that.
Yeah, thanks a lot for joining. See you later, guys. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.